Hello, it's Michael Exile again. We just received a developer update for DVD going into detail on the changes and updates that'll be coming for the mid-chapter patch for the Blight DLC. And I'm going to be giving a rundown on what these changes are as well as my opinions. Before I continue though, I'll first say that I have 3,600 hours in the game, mostly as Survivor, and I've been playing since 2018. This, however, does not mean I am oblivious to what the game is like currently from a killer perspective. I'll always try to look at these changes from both perspectives and try to put bias aside as much as I can. So to kick things off, the update starts with Behavior announcing their plans to begin reviewing chapters released previously a few months after its release, starting with the Silent Hill chapter. Their idea here is to give the chapter more time in real scenarios to allow players to adapt and develop potential counterplays and determine whether something needs tweaking or not. And while many people would argue that Behavior can be pretty slow with balance changes as is, I'd argue that this is a step in the right direction. I can't imagine this means that there will be less hotfixes, but rather there will be less balance changes forced by the outcries of the community, and that has happened quite a few times. One example I can think of in terms of hotfixes is when they took away his aura for his cages to prevent tunneling and avoiding borrowed time and stuff, because that was not a very good time. So I probably wouldn't be too worried about them not fixing stuff like that. It's just to prevent knee-jerk reactions to the community saying that a killer's too weak or too strong. I think this is an overall good thing. Now let's get to the meat of the dev update, the executioner changes. For the first change, they increased the delay after canceling Rights of Judgment before Pyramid Head can attack. So what this means is, as Pyramid Head, you can currently put your blade in the ground and you can hold it down for a bit until a survivor leaves the pallet or doesn't vault a window like they initially planned, and you just pull your blade back out and you M1 instantly. And as a survivor, that has been a minor complaint of mine because it doesn't feel very good to be put into a position where you make the most optimal decisions, but you're still put in a lose-lose scenario where if you drop the pallet, you're going to get hit by the ranged ability, or if you don't drop the pallet, you're just going to get M1'd, and nothing you do in that situation basically will change the outcome. Like, you're going to get M1'd regardless. And scenarios like that where you have no control definitely don't feel very great at all. And I don't think this change is going to completely wipe the mind game off the table. This change brings Pyramid Head more in line with Huntress and Demogorgon in terms of canceling their abilities, and the mind game won't just be effective 100% of the time, and I think that's a good thing. So moving on to the second change for the Executioner, they decreased the delay after attacking with Punishment of the Damned. And what Punishment of the Damned is when it's your ranged attack. When you put your sword in the ground and you swipe it up, they decreased the delay after using that attack. And considering that we just got the last nerf, I don't think this change will bring any complaints. I've definitely felt like the delay after this attack felt a bit clunky, and it's what turned me away from Pyramid Head to begin with. And I also believe that encouraging the use of a killer's ability is always a plus to me. This is a pretty good change in my eyes. Okay, so let's move on to the perk changes. There are 3 perks that are going to be revisited: Trail of Torment, Force Penance, and Blood Pact. So for Trail of Torment, the undetectable status was changed. The undetectable status will remain active until the mark generator stops regressing or until a survivor is put into a dying state by any means. So Trail of Torment was the perk where when you kick the generator, you have undetectable status for like 16 seconds and the gen glows yellow for the survivor. So instead of that undetectable status having a 16-second timer, it will remain active for as long as the gen is regressing. A survivor physically has to go and touch the gen, or a survivor has to be put into a dying state to stop the undetectable status. And all I can say is this sounds pretty extreme, and while I'm curious to see how it works, I can't imagine it'll make it to the live servers. Generators being the survivor's only objective, it'll be fairly easy for a killer to just jump back and forth between generators, just kicking away at them and regaining undetectable status. I feel like this is a perk that'll probably need a cooldown. Again, I'm curious to see how this one works out, but I think it might be a bit too strong at the moment in its current state. On to Force Penance. So for Force Penance, the exposed status inflicted after a protection hit has been increased by 20 seconds across all tiers. So it's 60 seconds, 70 seconds, and 80 seconds for tier 1, 2, and 3 respectively. There's not much to say here. I can't imagine this would change how often it's used. It'll probably just be equipped when there are protection hit challenges on the tome. So now for Blood Pact. So instead of having the 7% haste have a duration, It is now active as long as you are within 16 meters of the obsession that you healed, or healed you. So it's always active as long as you're within 16 meters. It's nothing big, honestly. I feel like as long as it applies to the obsession, it'll be extremely niche in my opinion. But it's still a pretty neat change. It's nothing big. I don't think it's going to be used much still though. Next up is the miscellaneous perk changes. There's a ton of them in here that aren't that major, so I'll just brush through them pretty quickly. So any means necessary, the pallet lifting perk. The cooldown has been reduced to 60 seconds, making it half of its original cooldown. It's a pretty nice change. I think any means necessary is a fun perk to run. Probably wouldn't run it over the necessities like Decisive Strike and Unbreakable if you're trying to be really competitive, but I'm curious to see how many more people run it. Now for Cruel Limits. The radius of Cruel Limits has been increased to 32 meters from 24 meters. A raw radius increase on this perk seems alright enough, but I don't think it's going to be used over the essentials for killer. It's kind of a specific use case and not a general purpose perk, so I feel like a lot of the time a gen might pop and you're nowhere near it. Might be a good buff, but I can't see it being used. For the People now has a scoring event, and I can't complain about this. More blood points is always nice. Survivors need to catch up to the blood pointage of killers. Mindbreaker. The exhaustion duration has been increased by a few seconds. This can make it a bit more useful against Sprint Burst, I guess. Before, like, it didn't last long enough to where it would be an issue to just wait it out and get your Sprint Burst back. I could see it being a bit more threatening. Good change. Slippery Meat no longer increases Bear Trap escape chance, and they have added increased chance to self-unhook. It's a bit sad to see this one, but understandable. Chances are you hardly had Slippery Meat against Trapper anyways, and Slippery Meat's always good for the meme unhook and Sabo builds, honestly. Thanatophobia. The heal speed penalty has been removed, and they increased the penalty on other actions. While this encourages healing with the perk active, experienced players hardly heal regardless, so we'll still be getting penalized for not being inefficient, I guess. It's going to be a lovely addition to many slowdown builds still. Smile. We're Gonna Live Forever now has more ways to get tokens, which aren't listed. And it also gives you increased healing speed when healing a dying survivor. And honestly, more uses for We're Gonna Live Forever is always a good thing. I love getting blood points anyways, and like I used it regardless, but this is more incentive to run it, I guess, and get more blood points. It's a nice little change. I love it. Technician now prevents explosions 100% of the time, and penalty to miss skill checks is increased. This will definitely be a great perk for newer players, and I'm happy to see more use for it. It's definitely not going to be for the veteran players, but I'm sure they'll find some appreciation for it as well. Good change. And the last one is Pop Goes the Weasel. It stays active for 45 seconds, down from 60 seconds. And this is probably the highlight of this update for me. Since the Silent Hill chapter came out, I've been running Repressed Alliance here and there, and I've had a lot of times where I run Repressed Alliance and I use it against a pop running killer, and they just wait it out because their perk lasts longer than mine. I think this is an amazing change. Good job. Also, there's one more thing. Perk rarity simplification. Tier 3 perks will be going from rare and very rare to just very rare. Meaning once you have all tier 3 perks, they will only be purple. This makes it easier to find the perks you are looking for since it will now just be purely alphabetical. Assuming you have all tier 3s, I guess. And for all you perk pack creators out there, including myself, it's time to make some changes. It's going to be a lot of work. And aside from all those changes, there's just graphic update screenshots for McMillan Estate. Most of the ones that we've seen already, but I'll show them on the screen anyways. All these changes will be hitting the player test build on September 29th, which is next week on Tuesday. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Overall, I am really happy with this developer update. I like the direction they're going with working on some of the perks that people hardly use and making them more appealing. I feel like currently there's not that much perk diversity, and hopefully this helps mix things up. I'm a bit skeptical about Trail of Torment still, but we'll see how it works out. Luckily, we get to test it in the test build, so I'm pretty excited for that, but I really enjoyed this developer update. But that concludes the September 2020 developer update. If you enjoyed this and would like to see me do it again, please let me know in the comments and leave a like on the video. I usually discuss these updates on stream as well over at twitch.tv/MichaelExile. If you want to have a conversation and just chat over there, you're more than welcome to. I stream most days of the week and I play Hunt Showdown, DBD, and for the month of October, I'm going to be playing a ton of horror games. So if that's what you're into, go ahead and give me a follow. I'll have all the links in the description. If you want to know when I go live, you can follow me on Twitter over at MichaelExile. If you want to join my community, the Small Game Society on Discord, you're more than welcome to. We have tons of conversations over there about games and just general things. For now, I'll see you guys in the fog. I'll see y'all next week in the player test build. I'll catch you later.